Hi and welcome back to Cheeky Crypto. My name is Nick, and today, guys, we're jumping down into the world of Cardano. We've seen some pretty volatile price action on the lead up to the Vasil hard fork and the upgrade on Cardano's ecosystem. But are we likely to see a push up higher, or are we actually looking for some downside here for ADA? And as I get into this video, if you find it useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. Now, if you have not yet joined us in Discord, link is in the description down below. It's a fantastic community talking crypto 24/7. It's completely free, and I really don't think you'll be disappointed by what you find down there, so why not go ahead and check that out today. And also in the description down below, you're going to find links to our Patreon services, where we offer a lot more for our Patreon members via Discord. This is everything from buying, selling, and staking alerts through to trading, project reviews, AMAs twice weekly, and a whole host of additional benefits. If that's your bag, why not go ahead and check that out? And the second link that's in the description down below is for the new Cheeky podcast, right? A fantastic way of staying up to date with everything crypto on your daily commute to the office. It's available on Apple, Spotify, and here on YouTube as well. Links in the description down below. Check it out. It's completely free, and I don't think you'll be disappointed with that one either. Okay, let's waste no more time though. Let's jump right down into this, right? So Cardano paired up with USDT on the hourly chart, and Binance is the data source. Now, I've cleared off some of the analysis here just to kind of really focus in on a couple of things, right? Obviously, I do Elliott Wave theory. That's kind of my thing here on YouTube and in Discord and kind of within the charts. Now, Elliott Wave theory is obviously relatively complicated. For me, I find it quite simple and it's quite elegant, but I can understand there's a bit of a barrier to learning that. Now, in Discord, I've got a list of materials that can help you understand what I do in these videos. So join us and just mention me. I can get those materials over to you, and you can have a bit of a read and to understand exactly what I'm talking about in a little bit more detail. Sometimes it's easier to read it from actual books or PDFs of books, for example, than it is to just have me explain something. I might not explain it the best way possible. So join us in Discord if you want those kind of materials, and I don't think you'll be disappointed by that. But essentially, I've kind of cleared it off here just to really focus in on something else that's also very important when it comes to trading. You've got to know where your support and your resistance lines are, right? Specifically with your high points and your low points, because this allows us to understand whether or not we're likely to see rejection or turn a previous area of resistance into a new support area, so you continue a bullish cycle, or find bearish kind of signals with double tops and things like that, right? So it's very important. So I've got a few lines drawn out on here. These are key levels that I'm focusing in on for Cardano. So straight away down at the bottom here, we've got this low point of 42.06 cent, okay? Now, essentially, this is a little pullback that we've had over here with a 5-wave move to the downside. And I think this is actually a bit of a leading diagonal move, okay, coming in from this high point up here. Okay, so this looks like a leading diagonal where we have this cross over here. Now, it's possible that that isn't. It's just a 3-wave move. And of course, it could be that this isn't quite finished yet. Okay, so I've kind of drawn that up as a diagonal move at the moment, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that is exactly what it is. It's just one possible scenario out of a dozen or so. Okay, then of course, we've got this upper end. Now, I've got this as the wave 4 high, this being basically 54.72 cent. Okay, so straight away we've kind of got these two key areas, right? And we're kind of trading inside it. We've just been trading sideways between these two zones, right? But then recently we've redefined it as well just here, because we do have a 3-wave structured move here. So we're just going to go map that up there, for example. We have those 3 waves. And then basically what this does is it finds this new high point and a new low point, okay? And then basically the high point is 52.6 and our low point here is 43.53. So we're now narrowing inside this sideways trade channel, if you will. Okay, and now obviously we hit a high point up here as well recently. This comes in at 49.3, and I'll talk about that in a moment as well, and what that might also mean. Okay, so straight away you can now see that we're narrowing this fill division ever so slightly, right? So now we're at this low point at 43.53 and the high point is now 49.3. So basically we're narrowing and even more as we really can focus in here. So we kind of got our top levels here. Then we go down one, and then we've gone down one additional layer. Okay, and for the most part, we might also want to focus in on this low point here as well, and say we've actually now refined even further into that. But I'm going to leave that open for now. Okay, so knowing these things, it allows us to know that we've got peaks and we've kind of got bottoms, right? And we've ultimately got this low point down here at 42.6. This is a key area for us in understanding whether or not we are breaking to the downside or breaking to the upside, okay? So if we stay above this area, there's always the potential that we come up higher than 54.72. However, coming down lower confirms that we're probably in a macro move to the downside, okay? So dropping down lower than 42.06. So very, very important. Likewise, if we were to move up higher than 54.72, essentially it means that all this corrective move has yet to be completed and we've still got this higher move upwards. And again, 59 cent I think is still possible. Let me just check. It might have fluctuated ever so slightly. Let me just check this from a Fibonacci perspective. Yeah, it's actually changed. It's no longer that high point up there, so I'll just remove that. So actually it is more in line with creating a double top scenario up here with this wave 4 high, about 54.72 on the 1-to-1 ratio. So I'll draw this out so you can see it. It basically would be an A wave here, this is a B wave, and then we have this higher move up here, right? So there's that kind of one bullish kind of sentiment to say that we might not be done with this progressive move upwards, and this might be where we see July, right? Given the hard fork and the upgrade to Cardano's ecosystem, normally we expect to see a bit of a surge beforehand and then a sell the news event, right? So this is still one possible scenario that could play out, but you know, I think it's a bit of a wild card because I think there's actually more room to the downside than to the upside, but this one's still possible until, of course, we drop down lower than 42.06. Okay, so knowing that, let's actually now map out Elliott wave theory onside our charts, right? We've got all of our resistance, we've got all of our support, we've got that one bullish kind of movement to the upside where we could probably hit a double top here at about 54.72. A wild card is a long shot, but it's definitely possible. So let's move into what I think is actually going on here, right? So we have our 3-wave corrective move here, okay, and that hits this high point of 52.6, okay, so that's the high point there. Then we drop down into a 5-wave move, okay, and we go 1, 2, and I think 3, 4, and 5. Now it's a bit loose, okay, so it could be considered a 3-wave structure with a bounce in the middle, a 3, 3, 3, for example, or a 3, 3, 5 even, if you really wanted to kind of stretch it out a bit. But essentially, I'm going to keep this as a 5-wave move until proven otherwise, because I see that as the best way of actually fitting this in there. So I'm going to leave it as that. Now, when you have a 5-wave drop like this, you don't normally expect to see these things in isolation, okay? You don't normally see just 5 waves on their own, specifically on this hourly chart. I mean, you could see it on a daily chart and you could see it on a weekly chart. That wouldn't be too unsurprising that you've kind of got all these different nested sub-wave counts to eventually it just makes one set of waves on a larger macro scale. But on a micro scale, you don't normally expect to see these movements in isolation on their own with nothing else that follows it. So emphasis here comes in at 52.6. Essentially, if the price moves up higher than 52.6, then that 5-wave structure there is random. It's random in itself. And I'd probably then actually look to just account it as a 3-wave move because a 5-wave random structure like this is unusual. You wouldn't just expect it. However, if we stay below 52.6, then actually I would expect to see another 5-wave drop to the downside. Okay, and the next 5-wave move to the downside would be completing either a zigzag pattern or going into an impulsive 5-3-5-3-5 structure, which essentially basically means that we're trending back to the downside, which part of our macro is kind of the direction that we're heading in anyway. So for the most part, that's kind of where I sit. Now, this area up here that I've also marked up, basically being at 49.3 is a very important level because what we've actually got going on over here is a double top scenario right here. But potentially that might just be one wave there. We pull back down and then we surge back up. And if we actually marry this up with this movement just here, and we just take that over, you can see that we just wicked over the 1-to-1 ratio, failed to actually close above it on this hourly chart, and then we started to pull back down. Okay, so we haven't hit any kind of 5-wave structure moves upwards. You know, I'd be looking at the 1.618 for that, and essentially we've started to correct back down. So this actually looks like we might have completed a 3-wave structured move upwards. Now, if I'm thinking that this is could be, you know, a 5-3-5-3-5 structure, I would be looking to see, okay, what's the most typical retracements? And actually flip this around the other way, typical retracement areas for a wave 2, okay? Well, that would actually be right up in here, right? Between, it can go as high as 88.2% and as low as kind of 50%, right? So we can see here that we wicked into this little yellow box area, meet in the kind of typical wave 2 retracement zones. And this then leads me to think that maybe we've actually, you know, starting our next move to the downside, our next set of 5 waves down, right? And this is either going to be a zigzag pattern, corrective pattern, just coming down lower here than 42.06, or, it turns into our impulsive structure of a 53535. And of course, as I zoom out of this, you can start to see the scope of where we're actually kind of, thinking of things going down, which is actually pretty reasonably low. So, for where we are right now in terms of Cardano, we've kind of got a few options because we're trading sideways and we haven't confirmed either way. We have that one scenario where we could move up, create a double top bearish flag, and just up here at about 54.72. And when I say flag, I just mean like it draws your attention to say a double top is bearish. It's not actually the bear flag pattern or anything like that, although you could argue it would actually, potentially marry that up in here. So actually, just before I actually go any further, I will show you what that would look like. Let me just grab a parallel channel here. If I grab this, I'm going to have to just eyeball it briefly here. I'm going to give this is really, 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 really rough, so I apologize for that. But essentially, you have the pole coming down, you have the flag coming over here, and then you drop back down. Now, with that, you would expect volume to decrease, and you can see here that we had huge volume coming and bringing the poles down, and then the volume kind of decreases off. That's kind of what you would expect from a bear flag. But nonetheless, lots of different patterns. I'm just going to really stick to Elliott wave theory. But essentially, what we're looking for here is this pullback to the downside. Now, we haven't got this in validation. We do have that one scenario where we could move up into that double top scenario and then break down, or we've already started the breakdown already with this 5-wave drop. Like I said, a minimum would be a zigzag, but if we do break this low point over here, then essentially, there's no reason to think that any of this is actually finished just yet. And again, then I draw my attention to whether or not all of this here is actually, wave 3, and all of this is actually then just bringing us down towards a wave 5, and whether or not this is actually all finished on this side. So we've got quite a few things to really consider. We do want to see the price drop down lower than 40.19 to be really confident on these lows that are going to be coming in. Or we push up higher and we can kind of then confirm, and readjust things. But essentially, we've got a pretty interesting kind of sideways trade occurring down here for Cardano. Nothing is confirmed either way just yet. And we are literally watching these levels to see which one is going to play out next, right? Now, we can, of course, dive into things in a little bit more detail. So we bring in the stochastic RSI. Now, for those who do not know, the stochastic RSI is a momentum indicator. However, you should not use a stochastic RSI on its own. It will give you a lot of false flags. Essentially, it's always going to be overbought or oversold on multiple different levels, and using it to try to predict out what direction a market's going to go in, it isn't necessarily going to play out too well. Essentially, what the stochastic RSI is doing is it's showing you the momentum behind a price movement. It doesn't necessarily give you the idea of whether a movement in price is going to be short-term or long-term, because the stochastic RSI can move fast and move slow depending on the level of momentum of the price movement. Okay, so what we do is we use Elliott wave theory in line with and along with stochastic RSI, or relatively along with relative strength index, which I also have on here. So if I hide it in, bring this one back, you can see the relative strength index is heading up towards the overbought area. And of course, we're already in the overbought area on the stochastic RSI. Now, when you use these things and with Elliott wave theory, you can then start to see the probabilities increasing and whether or not we've got the wave structures correct and whether the direction of the move is to the downside or to the upside. In the case of this hourly chart, it looks like we have room to fall to the downside. On the 4-hour, though, we've actually moved our stochastic RSI from overbought to oversold relatively fast, and it hasn't moved up that much on the stochastic RSI, but it has moved up reasonably well on the price chart. This tells us that there's actually a reasonable amount of momentum to the price movement that's currently going on. It isn't the best, but there's a reasonable amount of it there. Okay, so this keeps us, in check. Are we going to be now moving on up? Have we started our 5-wave move drop down? We obviously know where invalidation comes in, which would basically be 52.6. But all of this yellow box area that we drew up here is all fair game, right? So we might have a little bit more room to the upside before we actually end up pulling back down. Now, the 8-hour is already really high, so this is actually indicating that we are likely to see some more room to the downside, aligned with Elliott wave theory, which is also predicting those moves to the downside. So that one kind of wild card, that one move to the upside, is looking less and less likely. Here on the daily, we also have an overbought stochastic RSI as well. And if we throw the relative strength index in, though, you can see that this is actually a reasonable level. Now, what's really interesting about this is that we do have price movement going up, yet we have a stochastic, a relative strength index dropping down. So again, we'll be looking at probably retesting some lows and then seeing quite a big breakout from that. But I'll be also watching out for any kind of hidden divergences as well that's also in here. So again, you know, at the moment, this is very much aligned. So if I zoom in on these candles here, what we do have is basically a decrease in price here. And just bring that back out as we lower the stochastic RSI. And we also, on the lower side, have set some higher highs, some higher lows, and some lower highs, for example, in this triangular shape pattern. And pretty much this is aligned to our relative strength index, where we drop that down. And of course, we've been moving it up a little bit as well. So we're getting ourselves into a bit of a triangular shaped wedge where I do anticipate breakdown. I don't expect break up. But yeah, I could be wrong, of course. These are just my thoughts and opinions on the data. I'm not a financial advisor or anything like that. But to me, this data is telling me that we are likely to pull back and it should be relatively significant. Okay, whether we drop down lower than 40.19 anytime soon is yet to be seen. But I think the first kind of major bounce that we're probably going to witness is going to be somewhere between 28 and 34 cents. And then we break down potentially to 22.23, and then that would be the bottom, in my opinion, for Cardano's ADA, and then we start to move on up from there. That's kind of what I've mapped out at the moment here. I know I've kind of gone on a bit of a tangent and I've spoken about quite a few different things here. But hopefully it's very clear. If not, join us in Discord. I can help out, obviously, there as well. We've got a fantastic TA team that helps us out in Discord. You know, and obviously, you know, we've got Festoon, who does our short videos on YouTube and Twitter and etc. as well. He's down in Discord. We've got Savage as well. He's down in Discord as well, doing some fantastic Elliott Wave technical analysis as well. So if anything isn't clear, we can clear that up with you and hopefully make this a lot more, or make this make sense a lot more than maybe I'm articulating in this particular video. Essentially, though, I do think there's limited upside and more room to the downside, pretty much aligned to the rest of the crypto space as well. There's definitely seems to be a lot of random FOMO, really kind of kicking in on some random patterns. But you know, I'm not a pattern trader. I trade on people's behavior in the space, which essentially is what Elliott Wave theory is doing, and I use a few indicators to help us with the directions of those moves. So Bollinger Bands are another good example of, you know, what traders would actively do. So when we're testing this upper band the way that we are, even though we kind of contracted, we've expanded. I would expect rejection soon and then start to pull back down, in my opinion. Ever so slightly, there is room to grow a little bit here, but you know, I'm not expecting it. If anything, I think we've got the downside kind of coming imminently. So guys, I'm going to leave the video there. If you have found this useful and informative, hit the like button. I really do appreciate that. If you happen to be new to the channel, then why not go ahead and subscribe, tap the bell, select all notifications, and in doing so, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything that we do here at Cheeky Crypto. With all that said, done and out of the way, I hope everyone has a fantastic day, and I'll catch you all in the next one.